Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Financial Issues. Today, it is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. Happy to be here with you this morning. Seth Udinski, Samuel Case, the Studio A team, and our soon-to-be host of Financial Issues, Mark Minnella, will be joining us in just a little bit. Very excited for that. Make sure to get your comments, questions in, folks, if you've got them. You can join us on our live chat right now, financialissues.org/live. To our radio audience, welcome to you. I know you can't see me, but you can hear mine and Sam's, I guess you could call them dulcet tones. So welcome to all of you. Maybe you're in your car this morning, drinking some coffee. Happy to have you.
I think of them as warm, luscious tones.
Exactly.
By the way, if you're not watching, you're really missing out. Seth is quite beautiful
today.
That's
not true. That's not true. But I will say you are missing out. I have the privilege of handsome co-hosts, as it were. Mark Minnella, speaking of which, our soon-to-be host of FISM, who I will be his co-host, is joining me momentarily here. So excited for that, folks. You got questions for Mark? Get them into the chat now. We're excited. We got a lot to talk about with Mark. It's going to be a good time. Elsewhere, we saw job numbers heavily revised downward during the final year of the Biden administration. We'll discuss that. Pretty interesting things there. Of course, your questions and comments. And it seems as though Americans are actually feeling ever so slightly more optimistic about their retirement possibilities.
Tepidly, if you will, but still, it's a good sign.
Yeah, it is pensive. They're a little concerned, but a little more optimistic. So we'll discuss that as well. Hey, we got a partner commentary out this week for you partners. Make sure to check that out. It's a great commentary. Really encouraging. Good stuff there. The big economic number this morning was we did get the PPI numbers. That's a big inflation number. Sam, give us the details of this. What did we get this morning as it was relating to how Wall Street was expecting?
Pretty good news, Seth. Both core and headline inflation in the month of August dipped by 0.1%. Both of those beating expectation. Headline inflation came in at 2.6% versus the expected 3.3%. Meanwhile, core inflation came in at 2.8% versus an expected 3.5%.
Yeah, so, and it was interesting, Sam. We saw CNBC's, their initial reading of this was basically they were in shock once again that it was really good. And I almost wonder if it was a disappointed shock because they want things to be bad. But, and also further evidence, Sam, I mean, all signs are pointing to a rate cut in 1 week. Unless Jerome Powell's got something crazy up his sleeve, I don't know how he can't cut rates. And now the question really is, how big will the cut be?
And of course, he's just one guy. He might be the chairman, but still, even if he's the only guy on the board that wants to keep rates the same, it's not going to happen because, again, he's just a dude.
Exactly. So we'll keep an eye on that. That actually is in 1 week. We'll get that decision, folks. So keep a sharp eye on that one.
But this is great for the markets today because not only is inflation better than expected, but you're exactly right. Now the excitement's going to be that those rate cuts are all but locked in, which we've known for about a week, but this is still further evidence of that.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And, Sam, you mentioned the markets, of course, pre-markets, pretty excited to see this here. They're mostly positive. Right now, the Dow Jones at the flat line, but the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ feeling pretty darn good. So we'll see how it's looking today. Yesterday, the markets continued upward moderately, positively. The NASDAQ was building on its record highs. Same deal late afternoon as it was midday by Tuesday's closing bell, the Dow Jones up about 0.1% to finish, the S&P 500 up 1/5, and the NASDAQ up 0.5, building on that new record. So, Sam, we mentioned this, I think, rather troubling job number revision that we saw. Tell us about this, Sam. What's going on here? Catch us up to speed, because this is referring back to the last year of the Biden administration. We're seeing more and more of this now, where the numbers that the Biden administration originally reported maybe weren't entirely true, I'm seeing.
And that's kind of an understatement, right? Because it turns out that they were off by just a mere 1 million jobs last year through March 2025. So from March 2024 to March 2025, there were 900 211,000 fewer jobs created than originally estimated. So, just a minor error in the math there. But
I guess you would call that
quite amazing.
What would we call that, Sam? A clerical error?
A boo-boo.
Oh, wait, sorry. That was Lisa Cook. That's my fault. Sorry, that was a different one.
Yeah, in fact, ABC News says this is the largest revision we've ever recorded.
Wow.
Wall Street had still expected somewhere between 600,000 and 1 million. Not a complete shock.
Okay.
But on the higher end of things, and still, it is quite insane that they missed the number by
really
this
is.
much, 911,000.
It really is, Sam. It's pretty funny, to think about. I thought the economy was good during the Biden administration. Oh, I guess not. Sam, in all seriousness, though, the question I have is when it comes to accountability, is there any chance that whoever got this wrong, whether it was Biden or his job counters or anything like that, is there any chance at accountability here, or is this just like, oh, well?
Well, in fact, we already saw accountability. The head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics is now gone. She doesn't have a job anymore. So, that was well-deserved, it turns out, with this data we're looking at right now.
Yep. Boy, interesting stuff there. Elsewhere, Sam, we're seeing, so we've been talking about this, folks, on the show recently, and it's an interesting topic of conversation. The question of can lawmakers trade stocks? Should they be able to trade stocks? President Trump, Sam, has kind of had an interesting take on this because he's gone back and forth a little bit. I think at first he was kind of critical of the potential ban that was originally put forward by Senator Josh Hawley. Now he seems to be backing some versions of it, but it might be a different version. What can you tell us about this?
Yes, it's similar but different. This time he's backing a bill brought forward by Florida Representative Anna Paulina Luna. This is a plan, of course, to ban stocks, and this is being slow-walked in Congress. So her plan is to file a discharge petition, which would basically allow her to force this bill to the floor. Trump is calling that proposal a massive win. House leadership's been slow-walking the bill as House Speaker Mike Johnson is facing pretty intense pushback from some Republicans to slow-walk this thing, despite him personally saying that he does support the idea of the bill. This comes, as you said, as Senator Josh Hawley is also working on a separate bill, although a bit more restrictive. Hawley's version includes the president and vice president, unlike Luna's bill, which just affects Congress for right now. It also bars government officials from placing stock portfolios in blind trusts, which is also a provision that Luna in her bill.
Interesting. So, Sam, it's a tough situation. I'll get your take on this in just a moment. But, on one hand, I'm not sure about the constitutionality of banning lawmakers from engaging in the free act of stock trading. It's something that anybody can do. And just because you're a lawmaker, would it be an overreach, actually, to say, well, lawmakers are now not allowed to do this? On the other hand, Nancy Pelosi. Need I say more? Also, I might rather my elected officials not be distracted when it comes to trading stocks, especially, Sam, you've mentioned when it comes to issues of national security. If you have influence over international issues, but one of your holdings might take a hit if you serve your country's interest, I would really just rather not have to deal with that in the first place. Sam, my perspective on this, I think I like Josh Hawley's version. And I know it's a little bit hard line, hard-nosed, but I want to hear your thoughts because I'm not sure that Hawley's version as it is right now is the one that I would pick. What do you think?
Right. So I think there's something to be said for if you're going to pass a ban, make it affect pretty much everyone. Why should the president and vice president not be included in something that's affecting Congress? Luna does acknowledge that. And she says this is basically a step in the door. She wants to get this bill passed first, then we can address other members of the government. So I think there's something to be said for her political strategy there, that there's some wisdom to that. I actually do prefer her bill, though, in terms of allowing for blind trust, because I don't love the idea that just because you enter into Congress, you have to completely liquidate everything, especially if you're a business owner. If you own some sort of publicly traded company, maybe not even a big one, should you be forced to completely sell that? I don't know if that's the best idea. You don't want someone, or you don't want Congress to be full of complete economic neophytes. You want people to have an actual stake in the economy. But to your point, you also don't want people to be corrupt either, to be making political decisions based on their portfolio. I do think Luna's bill splits the baby pretty well on that issue.
Okay. Well, hopefully it certainly does. This is a tough situation, folks, but I'm liking, Sam, here's what I really like about it. The conversations are happening, and they certainly need to happen, especially like you said, we want people we want elected officials who know how to do the investing thing at least a little bit. What we don't want is elected officials who are getting ridiculously rich off of their investments because of insider trading or different things like that. And Sam, I know you've even mentioned the insider trading, which we wouldn't promote. It's not a good thing. That's not the big issue with it. The big issue is we don't want our elected officials to be influenced by their stock picks when we're talking about dealing with issues of national security. So
that is the big concern, right? Is that your influence is going to be based on your stocks, not your political convictions.
Absolutely.
Although there's something to be said, right? You are attracting a certain type of person if their big thought is not, I'm coming to serve the people, I'm coming to get rich through insider trading. Right. So there's something to be said about that too.
Exactly. Interesting stuff. Hopefully one of these versions gets passed. I think there's good things about both of them for sure. Hey folks, in the next segment, so excited, Mark Minnella is joining us. If you've missed the last couple shows, of course, we announced Mark as our new host of Financial Issues. He'll be coming on with me several times throughout the month of September to ramp up for his start date in the beginning of October. Cannot wait for that, folks. It's going to be great. And he's joining me on the other side of this break. So if you got questions for him, you want to say hello to Mark, join us on our live chat there. More Financial Issues with Mark Minnella joining us as well when we come back from this break.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
At Financial Issues, we understand the profound impact your support has in driving our mission forward. Through your donations, we're able to expand our reach on more radio and more TV stations, spreading the word about biblically responsible investing. Now, your money also supports us as we do the critical analytical work needed to identify high-quality, biblically responsible companies. So donate today at financialissues.org/donate. Again, that's financialissues.org/donate.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone. And ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
Folks, welcome back. Financial Issues. It is great to be here with you today. I do hope that you will keep the ministry in prayer here. It's just really exciting, folks. We're entering a new season here. We're coming up on the end of one fiscal year, going into the next fiscal year. We'll be talking about that in the coming days as well, how you can help us in what we're doing. But especially keep us in prayer as we march forward with Mark as our new host. We're so excited, just so excited. And I've got Mark with me right now. Mark, welcome to what is your show, brother. It's great to have you on. This is awesome.
What is our show?
Our show. There you go.
And all our partners show.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining me, brother. Are you ready to rock today, Mark? I mean, I am.
I've been looking forward today. It seems like it's been a long time to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, folks, make sure that you say hello to Mark in the chat. Of course, we've got him on for the next two segments here, so we're going to rock and roll with it. Mark, I see a comment here from Nathan. He was saying, hey, I thought the new old guy was going to be here today. This is the same old young guy, referring to me.
The new old guy. I love it. Yeah.
Right. So, Nathan, thank you.
So you're in cahoots with him with the old jokes, are you? All right. I see how this goes.
I think those will keep on going as long as the Lord allows. That's been
Seth,
told.
is that right?
Exactly. So, hey, Mark, speaking of aging, actually, an interesting topic for you here. Americans apparently are feeling a little more optimistic about retirement than they have been. Sam, can you give us the details on this? What's going on here?
Yeah, it's still not great, but so here's the data. This comes from, I believe it's a Gallup poll, but it says, despite Americans feeling generally negative about the overall economy, optimism about retirement is growing somewhat. So about 1 in 5 Americans now say it will, quote, take a miracle to have a secure retirement. That's not great, but it is down from 40%, so about 2 in 5 in 2021. So we are making progress here. Part of the optimism is, of course, being fueled by a pretty positive stock market where the S&P 500 has seen 20% returns 2 years in a row now. And while it might not take a miracle, roughly 3 out of 4 Americans still do say they're worried about retirement. Their main concerns including outliving their savings, inflation eroding their nest eggs, and of course, potential cuts to Social Security.
Well, Mark, let me just say this right off the bat, folks. You can breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not talking about Social Security. We're going to talk about other stuff today, okay?
My finger is hovering over the mute button.
Take a sigh of relief. That's right. Sam's got you covered. If the SS words come out of my mouth, he's going to cut me right away.
Just going to cut it off.
Exactly right. No, Mark, the truth is, for people like me and Sam, I think, and tell me what you think of this, the solution is rather simple for young folks. Invest long-term, well-diversified, save like a madman, live within your means, do this for 40-ish years or so, and you'll be okay. Am I correct in that? Is there anything that I'm missing there?
Well, that's pretty much a good financial plan comes down to doing the best you can as often as you can. That's the bottom line. And then trust the Lord for the outcome.
Okay.
This is a thing about retirement that I think we miss all the time. Retirement is one of those words and one of those distractions that I feel confuse Christians and, like squirrel. It gets their focus off what's important, and that's trusting in God. Yeah. Because oftentimes, it's not that people were foolish. Sometimes it is, and maybe more often than we want to admit. But sometimes it's just, this is what happened. I worked hard. I did all I could. I couldn't put money away. I had 3 children. I had, all this to do, a wife to care for, all this stuff. I did the best I can, and now I don't have a whole lot left for retirement. The bottom line is, 2 things make this all confusing. One is the term retirement, and the one is, where is the proper focus? Well, you and I and all our listeners knows the proper focus is on the Lord. He promises to provide everything we need. We should be at peace with retirement, even if we messed up, because when we get crazy and we do the wrong things for 40 years, I'm sorry, it does happen, and we do the wrong thing for 40 years. God doesn't say, boy, you really got me on this one. I didn't see that coming. Remember, He created us. He knew what you were going to do, and He knew how He was going to fit everything into His great plans, including your weaknesses, including your stumbles. So the thing is, retirement from a biblical perspective is so much different than the secular. Retirement from a biblical perspective comes down to, again, staying focused on God and honoring God with what He has entrusted to you. Now, you get to retirement, maybe there's only Social Security, maybe there's a little more, but what does retirement mean? You got to redefine that too. Anybody can retire at any time. Most people don't know that, but anybody can retire at any time. It just depends on what kind of retirement you want. Do you have your eyes focused on traveling the world and living in a house on the East Coast and summering down in, up in New York? And that's one lifestyle. Another lifestyle is to just continue on with life and, living in a humble or affordable living area that gives you the time to slow down because you can't keep going as fast, and moving your efforts to focusing on other things that honor God besides preparing for that time when you can't work.
And Mark, with what you just mentioned there, so someone like me, and I apologize to our audience who's older than me, but I'm asking from my perspective. I know we have listeners who are my age also. Is it wise to start planning for that at my age? So, for example, you had just mentioned,
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Hold on loosely. What was the name of that philosopher? Oh no, it was a group of philosophers called 38 Special in the 80s. It was a band. Hold on loosely. Hold on loosely.
You're speaking my language, Mark. I love my 80s.
Oh yeah, I think there's some Bible verses to go with that as well.
Yeah.
But the point is, God didn't create us just to create wealth for ourselves. He wants us to be conduits of those wealth to others. So along the way, I had a friend who was approaching retirement, and his neighbor lost his job, and his neighbor was younger than him and could not afford to pay his mortgage. My friend took money from his retirement and started paying the neighbor's mortgage for him until he got back on his feet. You see, that's what God wants us for. He says, hey, you built up this, and we say it's for retirement. We put it in this box, or like this one guy once said, we put it in a can, put a lid on the can, and sit on the can. That's not what it's about. It's about utilizing God's resources to God's glory. That's the bottom line of it. So be prepared to utilize resources along the way that you believe will honor God. And don't worry about the outcome. He promises to care for you, but don't be foolish either. That's the bottom line. Yeah. And retirement isn't an age. Retirement is the term retirement from the biblical perspective comes down to a shift from focusing all on earning income to care for family and overhead and all that stuff to being able to serve more in God's army, whether it's volunteering at church, helping others, doing whatever you can. Because now the children are gone, there should be less expenses, and you should be able to move on. So we got to refocus on what the term retirement means, and then we got to refocus our focus back on God. Because when we don't do that, then we can have anxiety. Then 3 out of 4 of us can worry that we're not going to have enough to retire, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But when we stay focused on God and trust in His promises, we'll be good. Just do all you can when you can, and praise God.
That's awesome. Folks, got Mark Minnella on with me. Mark, of course, is the very soon-to-be main host of Financial Issues. Mark, I'm so excited for that, first of all, and second for our conversation here. It's awesome. Now, how about this, Mark? There are some listeners, I'm sure, who are, in fact, most of our audience is closer to that retirement age, and I'm sure there are some people in our audience.
that retirement age, he says, after we just had that whole triad on.
What I mean is the traditional retirement age, the 60s, the 50s, kind of in that realm. How would you encourage someone who is in that age and they are one of those people from this article here who would say, it's going to take a miracle for me to ever be able to not work again, or I'm still worried about if I'm going to have enough, or if I'm going to outlive my money. How would you encourage them?
This is so hard because of the programming of the world, the secular world, about retirement. You said in their late 50s, in their 60s. Why is that retirement age? And what is retirement again? I would encourage you by saying God has a plan. It's a perfect plan. And that plan may not be to stop work, but to maybe shift that work to something less stressful. Like if you were a concrete worker, maybe He wants you to do something where you don't have a shovel of concrete in your hand 8 hours of the day because your body can't take it, but you move to something else. I never thought I would ever retire myself. I don't see how that would make me a better man in God's army or help me to serve the Lord in how whatever He wants me to do. So the point is, maybe we need to get over this. My life is supposed to be 50% of play and work and get on to, hey, Lord, what do you want me to do? Well, obviously, if you don't have enough money stashed away for you to live on your Social Security and what investments you may have, then maybe God says, I need you to work at this job, whether it's at Walmart or whether it's at a professional job or something, because there's people that I want to bring into your presence. There's people who need to hear the gospel, who need encouragement, who need loving on, because this world is hard. And I need you to just continue on so I can place you where I know you would have the most impact in this world for my purposes and to my glory.
Mark, I heard a quote, I can't remember which pastor it was from, but the quote is basically this: God is doing thousands of things in your life at any given moment, and you might only be aware of 2 or 3 of them. And so thinking about that, what you just said there, absolutely. Whoa. Hopefully that can be encouraging for people when they realize God has me in a specific spot. You know, maybe the reason that I don't have as much saved up for what our culture would call retirement when I'm in my 60s is not because I failed. It's not because anything like that. Maybe it's because God sovereignly is orchestrating things that I have no idea what this outcome could be. Maybe he's bringing me to someone who needs to hear the gospel. I love that you said that, man. It's so encouraging.
That is absolutely true. And also, God is so efficient. He knows where you need to be to be closest to him. So if he needs you to be working or concerned, or maybe he knows that if you had too much time on your hands, where your mind would go and maybe your actions that would not honor him, he wants to keep you busy so you finish well. There's all sorts of reasons for this. Necessarily a failure. You know, he knows who we are, and he even knows our foolishness. Amen. So
it's a comforting
trust
thought,
in him.
Yeah, it's a comforting thought for sure. Mark Minnella is joining me for the next segment as well, folks. So grateful to have his wisdom on the show. And of course, for the future, the Lord has sovereignly brought him to us as the next host of Financial Issues. So exciting. Folks, make sure to say hello to Mark in the chat. We'll be back with more Financial Issues right after this break. Stick with us.
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever he calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
And we're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
You know, giving is more than just writing a check. It's about using the resources God has blessed you with to make a lasting impact. Now, here at Financial Issues Stewardship Ministries, we're here to help you explore the power of giving beyond your income through non-cash gifts. From donor-advised funds, appreciated stocks, qualified charitable distributions, to name a few, these strategic giving options not only help ministries like ours, but can also offer significant tax benefits for you. Through prayer and thoughtful stewardship, you can give more effectively. You can impact lives, support ministries, and align your giving with God's plan for your finances. So, whether you're donating stocks, setting up a donor-advised fund, or even planning through your will, each gift plays a crucial role in advancing our mission to promote biblical stewardship. Ready to maximize your impact? Reach out to our team today.
Go to financialissues.org/non-cash gifts to learn more. That's financialissues.org/non-cash gifts.
When a woman comes into a center, she's being pressured from her family, from her friends, by her circumstances, by the rhetoric of the culture to believe that this is a quick and easy way out. If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity. And so we just encourage you to make a difference at whatever degree you can, whether you can do a $28 contribution for one ultrasound, whether you can underwrite an ultrasound machine for $15,000 or 10 ultrasound machines for $150,000. Where does the Lord have you so that you can make a difference?
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, Go to preborn.com/FISM.
You know, folks, it was such an edifying conversation in that last segment with Mark. Mark, we say often on the show, and this predates me, predates Shanna, predates you. This was back in the Dan days, way back in the beginning. The concept of all that we have belongs to the Lord. I try to end every show by saying it's all His. Let's be found good and faithful steward with it. I think we can very easily say that, but not actually put it into practice. But Mark, what you just shared about with retirement, especially with that story about the fellow who helped pay the mortgage, that guy got it. He understood that his what we would call retirement savings, it's just all God's, and he's ready to use it. He's ready to let God use it in that way. I love that, man.
And it's so freeing, right? You're not bound to this thing. Yes, it's there for you, and it's there as kind of a sense of security and wisdom, but you don't want to be bound to it. You want to be able to be free to live the way God wants you to live, all areas of your life, including in retirement.
There's a voice went through my head that said, "You fool, your life will be taken tonight."
Yeah, the guy with the barns and the barns. Yep,
that's right. Exactly, because he thought it was all his, and he wasn't doing anything wrong, but he wasn't doing anything right. He was getting greedy and just building more and more. Yeah. The point is, it's all God's. We have to get in that mindset and realize that, and when we do, then we can trust Him for our future. And God has so much for us, we just have to stay focused on that. When we don't, then we worry. Then we have anxiety, and then we can't have the charity and the compassion that He puts in us to give, and give hilariously as needed to those He puts in our path.
It's awesome. Mark, it's great stuff. Hey, we got a lot of people saying hello here. Let's get to some of these. Robert from Texas saying, welcome, Mark. Hello, Robert.
Thank you. Hey, Robert.
George from North Carolina saying hello, Mark.
Wow.
And we've got Nathan from Brandon, Mississippi saying howdy, Mark. Nathan's also, he was the guy who's made the funny comment about me being the young old guy, or the old young guy. And he's saying, I'm only 50, so I can say that. Nathan, fair enough. That's right. Andy from
He's
Kansas.
in the neutral zone.
There you go. That's exactly right. Exactly. Andy is saying, Mark, welcome aboard. Great to have you. Stephen from Oklahoma saying, Mark, great to have you on board. Cindy,
thank you all.
Yeah, Cindy from Virginia saying good morning to Mark. Stephen from Cleveland, Texas, not Cleveland, Ohio, saying welcome, Mark, and God bless. And then Brian from Missouri, I love this. Brian's kind of one of our resident comedians in the chat, Mark, and he's saying, Mark, my man from the Show Me State in Missouri.
Yes.
Awesome.
Brian, that's great.
Yeah, Brian, I would imagine, knowing that you're a St. Louis Cardinals fan, you might be pretty close to Mark geographically there, so that's pretty cool.
He really is. I think I saw that he was in a certain part of St. Louis.
Yeah.
I look forward to running into him. Maybe we'll have a little event in St. Louis, and we'll get to connect there.
Be awesome. Also, Mark, we got Debbie from Kentucky saying, I'm thrilled to have Mark as the new leader of the FISM program. May the Lord bless you all as you lead us. Debbie, thank you. And I see your comment to me and Sam as well. Appreciate that encouragement so much, Debbie. That is awesome. Brian from your state, Mark, by the way, also said, Seth will be hosting FISM when he's 90. Listen.
I hope so. I hope someday I can grow up to be as good as Seth is on the air.
Oh, my golly. Oh, Mark, you're too much. Thank you, brother.
Seth is going to be like the Rolling Stones of Christian financial hosts. He's just going to keep going and going and never quit.
Our final 100 tour of financial issues.
That's right.
The going away, the farewell tour for the 20th time.
Exactly. Yep. I'll be a 90-year-old man saying, I don't like Social Security.
There will be no Seth Unplugged because they'll need him to stay plugged in for his heart monitor.
Exactly right.
Well, Seth, if you're still railing against Social Security at 90, at least you're consistent.
That's true. Yeah. That's exactly. And that also means that it lasted until I was 90, which is great.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Oscar, Mark, has a great question here. Oscar's from Santa Clara, California. Oscar, welcome, brother. Thanks for joining the chat. He's saying, hello, Mark. Welcome to the FISM family. And then has a question for us, Mark.
Oh, cool.
He asks, why is gambling a sin, or why is it wrong? If it's yes, I don't remember the Bible saying that or speaking much to it. What would you say, Mark? What do you think?
Well, there's a lot of things that aren't by title in the Bible, but the principles are there. For example, I think you and I, Seth, talked about this a while back, the difference between gambling and investing, where gambling does not have any social significance, benefits to it. Somebody has to lose for you to win. And that's not the way God wants it. God wants everybody to be winners in his great plan. So I don't have to take Seth's money for me to actually prepare for retirement. I can earn money and create wealth on my own, and through God's grace and provision. And Seth can do the same for himself. So I don't need to take Seth's money for me. That harms Seth if that's the way the world works. Gambling is always a predator and somebody preyed upon. The casinos are set up to take your money. When you gamble with other people, somebody has to lose for you to win. That's not the way God wants things. So there's no social benefit to it. Also, gambling is addictive. It affects the brain in the same way that some drugs do. So you can't stop. And if you're going to casinos and things like that are designed, that are architecturally designed to take your money, eventually you're going to lose it all. And God would prefer that you get rich one step at a time. That's the other thing it does. It encourages you to try to get rich overnight, right away, all at once, where the Bible tells us not to do that, but to develop wealth one step at a time. And that's very right. And the whole point of that is, as you develop your wealth, you learn how to manage it and how to be responsible with it in a God-fearing way. When you get rich all at once, there's so many stories about people who won the Powerball or whatever, and within 3 years they're broke. Millions of dollars gone because they didn't have the wisdom or didn't have the time to develop the wisdom how to care for God's money that he entrusted to you.
Mark, that's great stuff. And a thought
I hope that helps, Oscar.
No, it really does. Oscar, thanks for that question. One more thing that I was thinking with it, Mark, too, is it safe to say that the biblical principles that we can see certainly would qualify gambling as foolish? I can't imagine that the Proverbs would speak highly of gambling because it's inherently foolish, right? It's taking a foolish risk. There's a difference between wise risk and foolish risk, right? And gambling, certainly would be the foolish risk. Yeah, it would be. And also, we do see in the Bible that purposeful foolishness is a sin. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Boy, it's good stuff there. Oscar, thank you so much for that question. And Mark, thank you for your answer there. Oscar, I hope that can encourage you, brother. I would definitely agree with you there, Mark. Hey, we got some more questions here, brother. Why don't we? I think we got time to get to maybe one of these here. Stuart from 53, Stuart is age 53, is a partner, and he's saying, my wife and I have 5 children, ages 5 to 12. We've just been putting their money into CDs. 5, well done, Stuart.
Let's stop there. Take a breath. Okay.
That's right. So he says, however, I've been thinking about perhaps it's better to open a Schwab custodian account and invest it in a Timothy mutual fund. We want each one to have their own accounts and invest wisely. What would you recommend? Each child has a few $1,000s in each of their accounts. Mark, Stephen is asking a very similar question that I've had about my kids too. What would you recommend?
That's a very interesting question because there's certain points to it that I really love. I love the idea of having an account where you can mentor your children on investing and prepare them for the future that way. I like the idea of the Timothy plan because the Timothy plan by prospectus is the cleanest and most purposeful investment you could be in the sense that it honors God in all that it does. So we have a couple things there that are really great. There's some positive aspects and concerns that you need to go back and forth with the type of account. Now, I don't have any problem. If you really believe your children and you're trusting in the Lord that they're going to grow up strong and steady, then a custodial account would work. The downside on a custodial account is at a certain age, whether it's 18 or 21 or 24, depending on the state or the type of account you open up, that money becomes theirs no matter what, and you lose all control over it. So you have to be prepared that if you have a child that somehow falls into the ugliness of the world, maybe becomes a drug addict, maybe becomes a gambling addict or something, then you have to realize that that money may be used to their detriment once they realize they own it. And they will realize they own it when they turn of age, because the brokerage has to send a letter out telling them it's theirs. So if you're concerned with that, you could just open up a joint account or something like that to help them. The percentage of people I know that would worry about that is very small, but as a financial planner for over 35 years, I've seen it several times where the kids have actually, or a child has actually realized it was theirs and went off the deep end, bought a fast red car and dropped out of school and wasted their money over the next year and a half, But we don't run on fear. We run on hope of God. And so stay focused on God. And if you trust that God and you and your wife are bringing up your children to love Him and to walk with Him, then the custodial account will work. Timothy plan will work. And I love the idea of mentoring your children into how to invest and for the long term, and get them on board. Maybe we need to start a children's partner level here.
Absolutely. I love that. Stuart, that's a great question, brother. Mark, thanks for that answer. I appreciate that so much. Folks, to come. We've got Mark Minnella. Again, he's going to be joining us several times throughout the coming weeks before starting full-time behind the microphone beginning of October. Cannot wait for that. But you'll see him on again very shortly, I'm sure. Mark, it was a pleasure, brother, and we just appreciate you so much. We got more financial issues coming up after this break, folks. Stick with us.
I started investing close to 30 years ago now. All that time, I had never heard anyone talk about setting up your portfolio in a way that glorifies God. When I first heard about it, I was listening to the radio, a show called Financial Issues. They were teaching people how to honor God with their money. I became a partner with Financial Issues, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made. Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Boy, folks, it's so exciting to have Mark with us. And once again, you'll be seeing a lot more of him throughout the month of September. We'll be having him on periodically throughout the weeks, joining me, answering your questions, interacting with the chat. Just so excited for that, folks. So stay tuned for that. Keep an eye out for when Mark's on. It's going to be a real good time. Let's do a little more chat rundown here, Sam, while we are here. Lisa, our sister Lisa from Texas, always a pleasure having her, saying, Sir Sirth, my nickname, and Sam, have it going on. Just want to say I'm proud of you guys. Lisa, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. And,
the question is, what is it?
That.
What do we have going on?
Is it Riz, as the young folks say? Is it? Yeah. So, which Riz is just short for charisma, I think.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Exactly.
See, you're not as old as you say you are.
Exactly. Thank you, Sam. The other George, the smaller George, because his letters are not capitalized in the chat, from also from North Carolina, saying hello to Mark as well. George, thank you for that one. We also, I think we had one more hello for Mark too. Let's get to who said hello. Oh yeah, Menda from Georgia. Hi, Menda. Nice to see you. Said, when I first heard Mark on the program, I thought you got a lot of wisdom, godly wisdom. Looking forward to following you. That's awesome, Menda. We're looking forward to having Mark here as well. Great stuff. And of course, folks, you'll probably be seeing Mark in the chat there also. So make sure if we didn't get to address you on the air, you can always say hello on the chat. Pretty cool stuff. Let's hear from Craig Halgard, folks, with today's Ag Report for our farmers and ranchers. Then we'll come back in just a moment and talk a little bit more about what's going on. Here's Craig Halgard.
This is Craig Halgard with your Financial Issues Ag Update for September 10th. Well, corn struggled yesterday as tight ranges and falling volumes kept the funds mostly on the sidelines. The recent 68% good to excellent crop rating was better than traders had expected, and in fact is 11% better than the 5-year average. As a result, December corn was 2 cents lower at $4.19 3/4. Soybeans saw falling volumes and tight trading ranges as we seem to be taking risk premium out of the bean market instead of adding in risk premium ahead of Friday's USDA report, as one would expect since the U.S. supply and demand situation is so narrowly balanced. In fact, a 1 bushel per acre loss from the current projections could put the U.S. very near a rationing situation. So Friday's report is going to be very important, although that wasn't really reflected yesterday. We had November beans 2.5 cents lower at $10.31 1/4. Wheat had an exceptionally low volume session as we had zero follow-through on the buying that we saw on Monday. Russia's FOB values saw a little more weakness, which places U.S. FOB values at a small premium to Russian values. Here in the U.S., spring wheat harvest is 85% completed, while winter wheat plantings are just getting started. Minneapolis December wheat was 2 3/4 lower at $5.74 per bushel. Kansas City dropped by 7 cents to close at $5.10 1/4, and Chicago was 3.5 cents lower at $5.20 1/4. Cotton futures just keep chopping sideways. December futures ended yesterday's session 25 points higher at 66.46. Livestock futures were mixed. We had October live cattle $5.62.5 lower, $230.17.5 per hundredweight. October feeder cattle dropped by $9.25, ending the day at $349.92.5 per hundred. And we had October lean hog futures 97.5 cents higher at $96.12.5 per hundredweight. Class 3 milk futures had their first highest close in a blue moon. At the closing bell, we had October futures up 5 points at $16.92. This has been Craig Halgard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
There he is, folks. Craig Halgard. Yesterday in the chat, Sam, I wanted to get to this. We had a good comment. George in North Carolina. This is smaller George in Bethlehem, North Carolina. What's he saying, Sam? This was an interesting comment.
George is talking about Trump's whole crime crackdown. He says the one thing that worries me the most that Trump is doing is sending militaries into cities. He says, I love squashing crime. He really loves it. He puts it in all caps. But he says that Trump's moves are bordering on a federal police force. And he says this would be very bad if the libs then use that to come after conservatives, Christians, churches, etc. in the future.
Boy, George, it's a really fascinating thing you bring up there, man. Here's my thought on it. I think you're right. It does worry me as well. The precedent worries me. Unfortunately, the situation that we're in, the question I have is, what's the other solution? You know, you've got cities. I mean, goodness, there was a horrible, probably racially driven crime that happened in, I believe it was Charlotte, Sam, if you've seen that on the
news headlines. It's truly disturbing.
Yeah, it was a Ukrainian refugee was brutally murdered by a person who a lot of people are saying should probably get the death penalty. So many cities have become these third world countries. What is Trump supposed to do? I agree with you. It's a dangerous precedent. It's a very dangerous precedent. And this is why, folks, we have to be keeping an eye on life beyond the Trump administration. What if Gavin Newsom is president? I say God forbid it, but what if it happens? We have to be ready for that. And sadly, he could use the same type of power to target conservatives, to target Christians, to target churches. We saw that a little bit in the Biden administration. I will say this also, George. it does border on a federal police force. That said, you could make the argument that the police force is in some ways already federal in quotes because it's taxpayer funded. I would agree with you. It's certainly not a nationally, like a national level police force. But there is something to be said for that. All that to say, George, I do agree with you. I think it would be very bad. And we do need to, I think the lesson for us is we've got to be a good steward of our country right now, but also in the future.
I think ultimately he's not really going to do it. He might do it in red states where the governors might give him permission to go into blue cities to crack down. But I ultimately agree with George on this. I think that Trump really doesn't have the constitutional authority to do this. He does to do it in D.C. D.C. is actually a federally run city. They let the mayor, they outsource basically the power to the mayor. But when push comes to shove, really the federal government's in charge of that. So that is different. This might be callous, especially with all the awful things going on, but it really should not be the taxpayer's burden to take care of poorly run cities. If we live in a good area, say you live in Texas or something like that, and you're a well-run city, why do your tax dollars then have to be outsourced to the federal government to take care of crime in Chicago? That way Chicago never actually learns its lesson, and the people have to elect good leaders to fix the problem. Really, Texas and good-run states should not be fixing other states' problems.
Sam, it's a great point. That's exactly right. And I do think, ultimately it does come down to this is a states' rights issue. And frankly, this is a city issue as well.
It's more than a states' rights. I mean, it is, but it's a state responsibility issue,
responsibility.
Too. You don't want daddy government, daddy federal government just swooping in and fixing all your problems.
Yep. I've said this before, Sam. In fact, I drove through on my way to a wedding this weekend. On my way there and back, we drove through, the city of Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. It's always been like my home major city. The place is a dump. Not all of it, but a lot of it is a dump. And what I want ultimately is for the city to be able to realize there is so many problems in the city. We need to clean this up. Like you said, Sam, we can't have the federal government coming in and cleaning up our mess. We have to learn to clean it up. And I think that starts with people realizing we need to elect the right people. We need to elect the right people. The mayoral elections are so important. Those lower level elections are so important. This is why you need the right people in place. And then those people, God willing, can put policies in place that can clean these cities up. That's really what you need. So didn't mean to dunk on Philadelphia there. I really do love it. But sadly,
it's kind of worth it sometimes.
It's a lot, And it's not only Philadelphia. A lot of major cities have areas that are really, really downtrodden. And it's not just because, it's a fallen world, so that's the way we live in. But people have chosen that. You have elected officials who have allowed that. And so actions have consequences. And Sam, to kind of bring it all back, I completely agree with you that we can't just have the federal police force, as it were, coming in and saving the day. And also think about it this way, too. If you've got Trump doing it, the next president might do it, too. And they might not be someone who we agree with. And that could be real scary. So, George, great comment. Really appreciate that a lot. It's good. Sam, let's take a look at this here real quickly. A couple of quick hitters here to get to before we sign off for the day. Looks like Americans are hitting a record low confidence in finding new jobs since the tracking began in 2013. This kind of runs parallel to the headline that we looked at yesterday about the number of natural-born citizens that are getting more and more jobs, which is good. We're seeing this other side of it as well.
It also reminds me of that story about job hugging.
Yeah.
Remember you had the great resignation during COVID?
Exactly.
Now you're kind of having the opposite, where people are clinging on to their jobs for dear life because they're not so certain they'd be able to find another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, we are seeing Bank of America is reporting small business hiring is down 6.7% year over year amid a tariff surge, and the American housing market gained $20 trillion in 5 years. Interesting stuff there. Folks, I do want to remind you, if you are a partner, we do have a partner commentary that is now out. You're going to want to give that a read. It's really, really good. Gives you some great encouragement about what's happening here in the markets. Hope you all were able to have a chance to read that. As well, too. And just keep in mind here, folks, as well, that if you're using the Ask Shanna portal, of course, we will be addressing those questions as well. In fact, some of the questions that we had today were from that there. So Mark is going to address those. So if you're a partner and you have a question, still put it in there because we're still getting them. And of course, you can always put those questions in the chat as well. A lot of exciting things coming up here, folks. I do want to say this as kind of the last thing for the show here today. We've got a campaign coming up here. All that's so important. We want to ask you to consider raising money for our ministry, but I can't help but just think about, as we're closing our show here today, that 24 years ago, so many people, their lives changed forever in our country about in a span of maybe 24 hours from this moment on. We know tomorrow is the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. We'll talk a little bit more about that on our show, but just a reminder for you to be praying for our country, praying for God's hand over it, praying for the victims of the families who even now, a generation later, are still mourning so many of those losses. Again, we'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show. It's great to be here with you today, folks. Remember, everything you have belongs to the Lord, to be found good and faithful stewards with all of it. God bless you all. See you tomorrow.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM